Over the weekend, we had ourselves a Skorupi Incense Day, and this was an event that a lot of players were looking forward to, but it ended up being a major disappointment. I think there's a lot of lessons that Niantic needs to learn with this past event, and I really do want to talk about that here. Alright, so with that said, let's get right into it. Hey, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Kanjinsula. I hope you're having a good day, and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Alright, so the Pokemon Go community is yet again very frustrated with Niantic, mainly because of how things went with Skorupi Community Day. Or actually, it was an Incense Day. It's meant to be something like a Community Day, but it ended up falling flat, and a lot of players were really disappointed by it. So what exactly happened? Well, Niantic announced that there would be a Skorupi Incense Day, and basically the way it was supposed to work is that when you pop your incense during a set period of time, you would get increased spawns of Skorupi, and it would have an increased shiny rate. Well, as it turns out, there weren't that many Skorupi spawns, and the Skorupi that you did spawn did not have an increased shiny rate, and a lot of players were really frustrated by that. I mean, yes, there was an actual increased shiny rate, but it wasn't to the rate that a lot of players expected. A lot of people were catching hundreds of Skorupi, and they were coming out with 0 shinies, and of course that's going to lead to a lot of frustration and a lot of disappointment. And on top of that, there was a lot of bugs and issues that prevented players from actually trading their Skorupi with other friends. Basically what happened was that some of the Skorupi that you caught were actually genderless, and because of that, there was an error that prevented them from being traded. So yeah, overall, this event was a hot mess, and a lot of people were really disappointed by it, especially because shiny Skorupi is one of the most sought after shinies currently in the game. Naturally, a lot of players were looking forward to this one event, and what they ended up getting was a lackluster event with a lot of bugs and issues and very disappointing shiny rates. Honestly, one of the lessons that Niantic needs to learn with this event is that when they're setting certain expectations, they need to follow through with those expectations. If they're saying that they're going to increase the shiny rate of a particular Pokemon, then they need to disclose what those shiny rates are going to be. That way, players can temper their expectations and not feel disappointed if they do not end up getting the shiny that they want. And yes, I totally understand that Niantic is not obligated to disclose shiny rates, but I really feel like they should, because otherwise they're creating a lot of disappointment and frustration, and a lot of players are going to end up setting expectations that are just way too high. Now, another lesson that I really feel like Niantic needs to take from this day is that if they're going to try out something new like an Incense Day, then what they really need to do is design it in a way where it's going to be on par with Community Day. I'm not necessarily saying that all the Skorupi needed a Community Day shiny rate, but what they should do is try to emulate a lot of the same excitement that you get when you play a Community Day. What am I talking about? Well, when you go into a Community Day, almost immediately you would typically get a shiny within the first half hour. That draws a lot of initial excitement, and then for the rest of the day, you're trying to collect as many candies and even more shinies, hoping for a higher IV. And with Incense Day, that is something that a lot of players were kind of expecting. I mean, what is the other alternative event? It is Research Days, and limited Research Days typically have the same feel. You get a shiny pretty early on, and then you're just trying to collect candies and trying to collect higher IV shinies throughout the day, and that's what makes those events really exciting. I really feel like if they were to try an Incense Day in the future, they should really do it in a way where players are going to get shinies really early on, and then from that point on, they're just focusing on getting candies. I really feel like that sort of format is definitely worthwhile, and really all they have to do is adjust the shiny rate. And I totally understand that this is kind of speaking in a way where I feel like we're entitled to shinies. I don't actually believe that, but more so I feel like it's a way for them to temper player expectations. A lot of players were going into this event thinking they would get a shiny Skorupi, and then they spent those entire 3 hours and ended up with 0. So I really feel like that's more on Niantic as opposed to the players. Yes, players should not be expected to get shinies guaranteed every time, but at the same time, I feel like Niantic needs to make sure players are aware that they are possibly not going to get a shiny on these events. If Niantic is announcing these various events and really highlighting the fact that you could potentially get a shiny Skorupi, then a lot of players will go into those events thinking that they're going to get a shiny Skorupi, and that is kind of where Niantic needs to draw the line. They should put the focus more on the Pokemon itself rather than its shiny form, and they need to bolster it with a lot of different bonuses and kind of get the players away from thinking it's some sort of shiny hunting day. I think that's kind of where Niantic fumbled the ball. Look, overall, this is kind of a tug and pull, between how Niantic communicates with their players, as well as how players feel entitled to certain shinies, and I do think that there needs to be a bit of a balance. Like, if Niantic is going to have different events like this, I think it's great for Pokemon Go, but they really need to make sure that they're communicating with players and being very transparent, and I think that's all that players would want. Because overall, I really thought this day would end up being something really special. Like, it's very rare that we have any kind of incense day, and I really felt like this could have been something good and something new, but instead, it ended up being a kind of a waste of time, and I really felt like I would have had better time just farming up Halloween Pokemon. I also felt like having a Skorupi incense day in the middle of a keynote event, that was also something that was very mismanaged by Niantic. I saw that as a major complaint from the Pokemon Go community, that the timing of this event was very lackluster, that a lot of players would have rather have done other things related to the Halloween event, as opposed to spending 3 hours out of their day trying to get shiny Skorupi. Yeah, that would have been really cool if it was at a period where there was no event going on, like if it was in between events. I think that would have been a lot better, but instead, Niantic decided to overlap these two events, and it created a lot of frustration within the Pokemon Go community, and that's something that they need to consider moving forward. Just to give you another example of when Niantic did this, they had Timber Community Day at the same time that they had one of these City Safari events. So for a lot of the people that were attending that event, they were unable to fully participate with a Timber Community Day, and that was one of the most hyped up community days that we've had in a while. So yeah, overall, I really feel like Niantic needs to get their act together. Yeah, Skorupi Incense Day was a big disappointment, but I think they could build upon it and make it a much better event in the future. And yeah, that's all I could really hope for, because I really like the idea of Incense Days, and I really hope Niantic continues to do them. I just hope they do it a lot better in the future, and that's really all I want. And yeah, with that said, that pretty much concludes all of my thoughts regarding Skorupi Community Day, or Incense Day, and I would love to know your thoughts regarding Skorupi Incense Day down below. Did you actually end up enjoying it and you completely disagree with me? Definitely share why in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. If you ended up enjoying it and found it to be informative, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then make sure you go and check out the links in the description below. For all the members of my Patreon family, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way within Pokemon Go, like with remote raids or the friendship system, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And also, if you want to support my channel non-monetarily, you could always do so by following me on social media. My handle is @CountJinsula, and I'm on the following platforms. Alright, and that's going to be it. I'm Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.